Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to another Arc Garage video. Today we're going to be testing one of the popular videos online in which the coolant is replaced using the return hose. We're going to check out if that method is even possible and what are the pros and cons. First, I'm gonna mix up the coolant. I'm gonna add 3 liters of 100% concentrate, and then I'm gonna follow it up with 3 liters of water. Now, the first problem that I see with this method is that the coolant inside the car is gonna get diluted. For that reason, I'm gonna make 3 of these jugs just to make sure that the concentration is right. Now, the second problem with this method is that the car needs to be close to operating temperature. The main reason for that is that the thermostat needs to be open. If it's not open, you are only going to be replacing part of the fluid. Now, since the car has to be close to operating temperature, we are also need to heat up this coolant. I already heated it up in the hot water, and I'm gonna add hot water to it. Now, before I start, I'm gonna measure the concentration of the coolant. We're gonna see what its freezing point is. And you can see that this mixture is gonna freeze at negative 38 degrees. Now, before I start, I just want to be clear here, this is not a proper way to replace coolant in your car, and I certainly do not recommend it, primarily because it is kind of dangerous, because car needs to be hot, and as I said, the thermostat needs to be open for the whole system to be flushed. Also, before I try to remove this return hose, I gotta make sure to release the pressure through the cap. As I said before, the car needs to be hot. This car is at like 80 something degrees. I already released the pressure through the cap. Now I'm gonna remove this return hose by first undoing this metal clamp. Be careful here. Now this little plastic piece where the hose goes can easily break off. So next I'm basically just adding a piece of see-through hose to it just to extend it, and the other end is gonna lead into the bucket. Now I'm gonna remove the cap. I'm gonna put my funnel inside the expansion tank. I'm gonna start up the car, and I'm gonna start adding the coolant. Alright, I've started up the car. Just to be clear, here the car has water inside its cooling system due to the leak from before that has been fixed. You can see that we got the steady flow of water coming out, and I'm gonna start slowly adding the coolant. Now, the one thing that you gotta pay attention to, you don't wanna leave the expansion tank empty. And the other thing is that even if you see the green coolant start coming out of the hose, that's not the end of the cycle. You gotta wait for the thermostat to open, and you gotta flush out the whole system. So I'm gonna keep pouring in the coolant until I'm sure that the whole system has been flushed. Alright, the system has been flushed out completely. You can see that we got the green coolant coming from this return hose. I've made sure that the thermostat has been open. The car reached 90 degrees. and it dropped just a little bit, which is the indication that the thermostat has opened. Now I'm basically just gonna put everything back together. I'll let the car idle for about 45 minutes. Now let's measure the coolant again. And let's see here. Now it is quite diluted. Now its freezing point is at negative 31 degrees, so we basically lost 7 degrees. So it's actually even better that we had water inside the system for this test, because if we had coolant, it wouldn't really give you idea how much the new coolant was diluted. I was thorough in this whole process, and if I didn't do this whole method meticulously, I think that the results would be even worse, and the coolant would be even more diluted. Now that I'm done with the process, let me share some of my thoughts on the pros and the cons. I'm gonna start with the cons. Number one thing is that you are basically wasting coolant like this. I've essentially used 3 times as much coolant as I would have if I've done this the proper way. Now the second thing is that you have to heat the coolant up. As I said, the engine has to be warm and the thermostat has to open. And the second thing is that you don't want to damage the warm engine block with a cold coolant. The third thing is that the coolant gets diluted. To be fair, even if you do this the proper way, you're gonna dilute the coolant a little bit, but this is kinda more than a little bit. And the last thing is that it is less safe. You are dealing with hot coolant and hot engine, and there are some chances that something could go wrong, or that you could hurt yourself. Now that we are done with the cons, let's move on to the pros. The first good thing about this method is that it's fast. Essentially, you can do it in like 10-15 minutes if you do it right. The second good thing is that you basically don't need any tools, only use flathead screwdriver and the pliers. Now the third good thing is that you don't have to bleed the system. Now this could be important because there are some cars that are problematic to bleed, and you can use this method to replace the coolant. And the last good thing about it is that it is easy to do. Now, even though there are some good things to this method, I still recommend doing it the proper way. Anyway, that would be all for this video. I hope you find it useful. If you did, hit that like button and support our channel by subscribing and by sharing our content with the rest of car enthusiasts.